Sırf evlendiğine mi seviniyorsun?
Kendime ait bir düzen kuracağıma seviniyorum.
Kızım, yuvamıza hoş geldin. Artık burası senin evin.
Oğlum, kızım bir derdi, bir sıkıntısı var. Hal değil demedi değil mi?
Gülizar dün yolda gelirken biriyle tartışmış. Adam darp etmiş.
Sen şimdi bu adam bulunca ne yapacaksın?
Onu gördüm.
Eğer Emre öğrenirse her şey çok daha kötü olur.
Öyle mi evlenecektik?
Ben sonra kapattım bu konuyu dedim.
Benim de kapatmam lazım. Artık geçti Gülizar. Önümüze bakacağız.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Carolyn Talks. This is the podcast / YouTube channel where I, your host, Carolyn Hines, film critic and journalist, speak to film creatives around the world about their work, the industry, and what inspires them. And today is one of my special interviews for the 2024 Toronto International Film Festival, and I'm very happy to be joined by writer and director Belkıs Bayrak to talk about her film Gulizar, which is it's a very quiet film. I find that it's a very quiet film and it's a very meditative film, but it's a film about this young woman Gulizar who is on her way to marry her fiance. She's sexually assaulted in a public bathroom, and what follows after is such I think a deep meditative look at how sexual violence affects women on a very psychological level, and it talks about how these things manifest subconsciously. Like for instance, she stops talking, like Gulizar stops talking, and she changes her clothing and all of these things. But it's a very I think it's just a very important film about how sometimes women don't know how to process the things that happen to them, especially when she's going what should be an extremely happy event to a marriage, but it changes her perception about marriage and about men and women and female relationships and dynamics, and even I think family too, because I think I want to talk about this, but I think it kind of changes how she looks at parents in particular. But thank you so much, Belkıs, for taking the time to talk to me. Yay.
Thank you for inviting me and having me here.
Yes, no, I'm so happy that you're talking with me, because this film is set it's a Turkish and a Kosovo film, and I want to ask you first about the starting the film where it does where Gulizar is getting ready to be married, and she is talking with her parents and her mom about what about what she would wear for this wedding, and like she's talking, and like you get this sense like she wants to do the wedding, but she doesn't really want to talk about the wedding. So talk to me about starting the film there, because I thought it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because from the beginning of the scene, especially with the prologue part, we can understand that yes, she's okay with the marriage, but not the marriage maybe itself, the outcomes of it. For her, it means to live abroad, meeting new people, living in a new country. So because she's mostly a girl who likes hanging around outside of the house, she's not the typical, let's say, girl who likes dealing with house things and etc. So I wanted to show that yes, she's accepting this marriage, she's okay, but she has more free spirit, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she has very spirit, but the thing is she's also a very quiet person. So
yeah,
it's so at the beginning. So when
yeah, that's a choice.
Yeah. She's very quiet and she's very shy, but she's still also very independent. And I like that you give us that perspective of her, like where you don't just because someone is shy doesn't mean that they don't have a sense of independence, that they don't have a strong will and a strong personality.
Yeah, exactly. Because normally it's difficult to portray such a character, because if the character talks too much, you have too much opportunity to tell about her or him. but I always like people who are, silent but smart, more observer. So there is a presumption like that. I mean, if you talk too much, it doesn't mean that you know too much. If you keep silent, it doesn't mean that you don't know the details or, how things going on. So this was one of the main decisions for portraying a Gulizar character. I wanted her to be silent.
And I usually ask a question like this a little bit later, but it's because we were talking about how the person, her personality, and how she's portrayed. Talk to me about working with actress Ecem Uzan to figure out how she would work out playing Gulizar, because she's two different types of quiet. There's a quiet and shy, but still very independent and still very confident woman at the beginning. But then after the assault, she becomes quiet, but she's a different type of quiet. She's a more reserved quiet. She's almost like a ghost. She's just going along with the movements, and she's like, she's like this thing that's just moving through life, and she's not doesn't have any life. So talk about working with Ecem and figuring out how she would portray these different types of quietness in Gulizar.
Maybe I should first underline that for her, let's say we observe her quiet because we mostly observe her from societal perspective by means of camera. But we all well know that, for example, when she's together with her sister, she's really talkative. They joke each other and everything like that. I think normally it's really like it because when we travel somewhere, normally we don't talk because we are in somewhere else, we don't know. So this is actually not so far from the real life. How is it happening? But maybe in a cinematic way we expect to things happen in a different way. For Ecem's performance, yes, normally she's a great actress, and I know her way of acting. But before this film, we had a long pre-production process. We talked some films together. We discussed on them. We discussed on way of acting, and she was saying it is really tough for me. What you are asking is really difficult for me. During the rehearsals, there were some times she was really alienate his body. She was saying, how do I look? Is it normal? I don't feel myself comfortable. Even with the body herself, she was trying to get into it. But since she's hardworking and great, and with a well pre-production, during the shooting, everything was perfect because as mindset, we were totally together at the same floor.
I think it's interesting that you say she was a bit more self-conscious during pre-production. Is that because because Gulizar, she doesn't wear any kind of makeup, she doesn't, and she doesn't wear any makeup. Her hair is like very plainly done and her clothes are very plain. So is it that made Ecem a little bit more aware of how she would look on camera? Because like there is no artifice, there's no makeup to rely on, no fancy hairdos, to kind of distract the audience. Like because she's so very plainly dressed and made up, we the audience can't help but focus on her, so did that have part in why she felt that way?
Yes, it is one of the reasons she felt that way. And also with the script, she was always saying, I completely felt what's going on. Normally she's not accepting for any new projects for a long time, but when we shared the script with them, in 3 hours they called back us and wanted to meet with me because Ecem was saying, I can totally feel what's going on the script. So she was really ready there. But by the camera shows and costume and production, let's say, that's completely true. Her way of, being silenced, pureness of her, all of them were, they were all the decisions taken during the pre-production.
Yeah, and not only was she very plainly dressed, but she also doesn't speak much. Once the assault changes everything about her completely. At the beginning, like we said, like she's more outgoing, and although as you said, like when she's with her sister, she talks a lot. Like her tone of voice is brighter. She's more active. She's more effervescent. She's more extroverted, and she wears brighter colors, and she wears more colors. But then again, after the assault, like she not only becomes like her face and everything changes, but her voice when she speaks is very monotone. It's very quiet. Like she doesn't really put any vocal inflections in her voice. And I thought it was a very interesting way to show like how what is happening to her internally is affecting her externally. Because not only does she change the way she dresses, she changes the way she speaks completely, and the way she looks at everything is just very dead-eyed and very emotionless. So I think that's, and the script again is just, it's a very quiet film, and not only quiet because with regards to score, but everyone speaks very softly. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, yeah, for keeping the rhythm and let's say time and space, there is a pressure there, but it's not a pressure you feel by the camera and dialogues and everything there, but it's there. So this was my intention, to create an atmosphere like that, not to make a directorial choice, only this fancy choice. There was a reason for that. Today, even though everybody, all women are very talkative, we are capable of doing lots of things, there is still Me Too movement.
Yeah.
It means there is a difficulty about talking. I was always talking about that. Why it is, why there is a moment that any woman can stay years on, long time there and even could not speak about it. And I always imagine the women who are not, who are in post-trauma and cannot talk about it, they continue their daily lives. And we never know if there is, something happening or not. This is the moment where truth and society just contrast with each other. They are in difficult, position. So I was assuming if I keep the balance, if I keep the dialogues and, daily routine, even streets are, quiet. If I keep it like that, maybe the audience and we can feel empathy and realize there is a silence there and there is something there. So my aim to create this atmosphere was to support her psychology.
Yeah, and I think you did such a great job with it because again, because the film is so quiet, it really makes the audience, makes us really sit and think about everything that's happening, because again, because she's quiet, the film is quiet. And because she's quiet, you're wondering, what is she thinking? What's going through her head? Like she sees someone, she's like, what is she thinking about this person? And again, it's like trauma silences us, and like for many people, like they mask it, like they're able to like, not that they brush it up, but they're able to like compartmentalize, and she is figuring out how to compartmentalize, but she can't because she's planning this wedding, a wedding that she was anticipating, but she's like, do I even want to keep going with this, but she's not having time to compartmentalize because she's immediately in a completely new place, a new country, a new city, a new family that she's
Yep.
around, people she don't know, she knows nothing about. And she's preparing for an event where, again, women are expected to perform, at weddings, like even if like you're excited for a wedding, but you're still expected to put on the performance of the happy, excited bride, get your hair done, put on makeup, put on a dress. And she's like, I'm not feeling any of this.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yes, by means of acting and all the details, it's going again. She's silent because, yeah, it's another important layer, I think, in the film. She's being stranger to many things. She's being stranger to, the new country, new family, new order, and also there is upcoming marriage. Everybody is, really focusing on that because it happens like that. I'm married for 17 years, and during the marriage, I only remember just rush of organization, and I don't remember anybody was just came and asked, is everything all right? Even everything, yeah, it's all about arrangement, planning something. So it means, yeah, people during these days talk that much about plan, but never we rarely talk about our feelings, especially as type of these days. So I wanted to create the tension between these two moments, her inner reality and what's happening outside.
Yeah, and I just love the way you do that because, like, again, like I wanted to ask this because, like, for the landscape itself is like everything is very neutral colored, like because of like the color of the buildings is very neutral. They're natural stone, So I kind of also saw it. I wanted to ask about her costuming, particularly with her costume designer, because her clothing kind of blends into the background. Not that she disappears, but like they match the color of the buildings, you know, that helps with her again. I think where Ecem did such a fantastic job as how she's very still and quiet. And as you said, that's a very difficult thing to do. It's much more difficult to be quiet and to be still than it is to be like, you know, talkative and stuff, because we are accustomed to being talkative, but for people who aren't accustomed to being still and quiet, it's a challenge. But the thing that really also lends to that again is the costuming, like her clothing and the color choices, talking about working with the costume designer and figuring out the colorings, because I noticed like there's sometimes there are scenes where she's wearing skirts that from a distance it could look like the patterns of the stone, you know, the patterns of the walkway and the buildings around them in Turkey.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. For during the pre-production, the production designer and costume designer and our cinematographer, we were working on, you know, creating this space, and also Gulizar, how she is in relation with all this space. So we just divided the masculine spaces, which is for me mostly public spaces, and the feminine locations. These locations have different colors, and also her private room when she's alone. So we try to keep these feminine locations more warm colors, like her room, hairdresser room, and, you know, etc. Her room with her sister. But the other places, like the corridors, you know, these all official places, they are in a color of, you know, white and beige, and her color, her also costumes are like that. So we always work on that and try to create tension. For example, in hairdresser, it's a different feeling because of the color and the costume. But when she's in the police station and walks around and, you know, go somewhere else, it's a different feeling. So you have to do that, because if the character is not that much talkative, and I think this is what cinema is, you know, cinema stands for, because we have all these elements, and it's really artistically, you know, yeah, it's really happy to use these all elements to create an atmosphere, not only the location itself. For me, it was always location works for Gulizar, support her emotion.
Yeah, and I think you guys did a fantastic job, and as well as the costuming. I wanted to talk a bit about the score, because the score is interesting. It's again, I'm always fascinated by how the sound editing for films is done with regards to like films like this, again, because it's very quiet. You need a score that doesn't overpower the story and doesn't distract, you know, and doesn't feel out of place. So I think the score really does that. But I think something that's really interesting with regards to the editing itself is there's moments where the score is very it's noticeable, but then there's moments where it fades on, and there's moments where it just suddenly cuts. Like I think the scene that's most noticeable to me is like there's a scene where Gulizar and Emre are sitting on the bed and they're talking in the room, and like they're talking and the score is playing and it's going, and then the music just stops. And I'll tell you, I actually had to rewind it a few times to make sure that the audio for the film didn't end, because I was like, wait, did the audio cut out? Do I need to refresh the film? Because I was like, it just cuts, like it just ends suddenly. It didn't fade out at all. It just stopped. And then like we were just left with the two of them sitting there. And again, they're so still and they're so quiet, you know, and there's no sound at all. And I was like, this is an interesting choice. So talk to me about those kind of choices, and like just how you and the composers and the editors decided when you wanted the music to fade out, and then when you wanted the music to just suddenly disappear and leave like just this vacantness of sound, this absence of sound.
Sound and music and even editing, they have their all other, you know, artistic layers. And since we carry all these decisions throughout the film, I mean, you know, creating the space and the costumes and everything, we also had these long conversations with, you know, sound designer, composer, and editor, that now it's your turn to have to create another layer with the film, which should be invisible, like the film's choice itself, but have to be there. There is again a, you know, difficult aim. But, you know, we have to deal with this, because otherwise, if there is a, you know, that type of non-diegetic way of music and sound, it would be, it would not be, it would be very eclectic. And this was not the choice I was, intent to make. So for this, for example, room scene, believe me, thousands of debates we have done where to stop. Because there are lots of choices, very, in a classical way, it can very stop with the, scene, but we did not want to like it like that, because if you really have that silent moment of tension, two-person in the same room, there is really deep version of silence. It's not, typical silence. And sometimes I encourage my characters to talk about it, and they always said, no, it's not them. I didn't want to say anything. And I was like, if you say, just go ahead, and they never accept it. So for the sound and music, I can also say that they really collaborate also with each other. For example, in some places, there were some scores, but our sound designer just took that and, played with them to make words. For example, for me, one of the keywords were metal sound, construction sounds. There were some key sounds, and we merged these key sounds with the score. And so it is, that's why you can hear it, but at the same time, it's sometimes hearable, sometimes not, because we were really careful about that. For editing, it took long time, 10 months, with that intense way of editing. We were there, but there is somehow, maybe you agree or not, contrast with the rhythm of the film, because the camera work and all other things more slow way. I wanted to keep editing in the contrast to that perspective, so that we can, it's another way of evoking the feeling. So on each artistic department, I was always looking for discussions, some other idea, and also all departments there are each, obstacles to overcome.
Yeah, and I think you guys did a fantastic job. I think the sound editing is just, it's so surprising, it's unexpected the way how it's done. So again, I always love to give my give credit to the production teams, because sound editing and sound designing and doing the score and all of these things are so important to the story, the music supports the story. So I think they all did a fantastic job. No, go ahead.
I really look for that. Yeah, because the score was done in Azerbaijan, sound is done in Romania, color in Kosovo, editing in Turkey.
That always fascinates
really
me.
For them.
That always fascinates me about filmmaking, because so many people have the idea that where a film is made is where a film is edited and created, but a lot of people don't realize parts of a film are done in completely different cities and countries. You can film in one location, but the editing process is, as you said, is in another country. The sound design is done by someone else in Montreal or Canada or whatever, in Spain. It shows you how collaborative filmmaking really is. It's a collaborative effort, not only on set, but outside the set.
Yeah, I totally believe that.
Yeah, and speaking about collaboration and support, talk to me about the character of Emre, played by Bekir Behrem, because Emre's, I like that you made him a very supportive character from the very beginning, because often they're doing the true to life, where they're men who do not have compassion and empathy for women who have been sexually assaulted. There for a lot of men, their immediate reaction is to judge, to doubt the women, what did you do? What were you wearing? How did you get yourself? He didn't do that at all. He immediately believed her, and he immediately realized that she needed care and support. He gave her a lot of space and all the time. So talk to me about how important it was to you to create a character like Emre and working with Bekir to because Emre is as quiet as Gulizar is. He complements her, so his personality isn't overbearing. So talk to me about how important it was to have a character like Emre and work with Bekir, and to figure out how to do that, and then the two of you working with Ecem to figure out their dynamic on screen.
For Emre's character, I was expecting it will not be easy to find the perfect the right actor. By means of mindset, I was a bit curious. We had some we look for some possibilities, and I asked from all the person to read all the script, just play one scene, because it was the moment which I will understand if we are on the same page with the actor on the mindset. So when we receive all these videos, mostly people were judgmental, as you say. They were screaming or pushing, hands on the table, and I'm talking about the actors who has, expected to have at least some sort of, supportive, maybe as attitude, I don't know, but as a script, yeah, it was very desperate moment for me. Only Bekir in his audition, he was really supportive. And I wanted to meet and talk about him with that, and he said, this is what if it happens to me in my daily life, this is how I react. I cannot think other way of reacting to that. At that moment I understand that we are on the same page. And then for the way of acting, just like we did with Ecem, we work too much, we watch too much films, ways of acting together. And firstly, I separated with Ecem and Bekir separately, because it was different way of working. And then in the end they came together, and sometimes they were surprising to their reactions, and they were checking, is it normal, how do you feel? It was perfect moment for me. They were trying to discover the relationship between them with two characters. So with this long pre-production, during the shooting, of course we made too many rehearsals, but it was not to understand the character. It was just because of the camera and the light, or the emotion of acting, some reasons like that.
Yeah, and I like that. And I really love that he's a very supportive character. He's not perfect because he makes mistakes, and because again, he's a man.
Yeah.
And men, they try to be heroes, and it's like for Gulizar, she doesn't need a hero, she just needs a support system. And he does his best, but he still makes mistakes, and he's only human. Like we get in situations that we don't know how we react, and so like I like that.
Yes.
But I think most importantly of all is that he gave her compassion when she needed it. Like he protected her, like he covered for her with his parents, like when something happened and her parents didn't understand, he was like, oh, like she's just nervous or whatever. And I think that's important, because like if he had been if he wasn't, I think it would have made things even worse for her, because she's like, okay, I'm in this completely new country, the one person that I'm supposed to be marrying and tying myself to, like if he doesn't support me, I don't like she wouldn't have anything left to fall back on.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Yeah, exactly.
I'm really curious about the filming process for you, filming in both Turkey and Kosovo. Like what was it like for you filming in two different locations? Because and not only technically, but also thematically, because again, just like how Gulizar changes from where she is at home in Kosovo to like how she becomes in Turkey, I imagine the way you had to approach filming changed in locations, because the setting kind of like also informs the story. So like what was it like for you filming in two different countries?
Yeah, as you can easily assume, production wise it was tough. It was my debut. I was maybe innocent and don't know what to do, and get this decision, but I really know that if we work too much and very well planned, we could overcome it. And for the shooting, most of the story takes place in Kosovo, but we made most of the shooting in Turkey. So there were another level that sometimes we were creating some locations in Turkey, and their continuity scenes were in Kosovo. It was always like that between Turkey and Kosovo going together. But we know the locations, their feelings, and what do they serve for. I mean, we never didn't. Yeah. Since you see the film, there is not an intention of introduction to a new country, giving landscapes, all these white frames. The film is not dealing about that. It's always dealing about Gulizar. So wherever she go, we knows how to move with her. I think this was the creative part, challenging creative part, and all team were together was aware of what we are going through. So it was difficult only by means of production wise, but in other creative way, it was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, I imagine. And so for you, like, why did you choose to have the story set in two countries instead of just in one location?
Because I think it's an important layer. I'm also, yeah, I lived in some other countries for a while. I know this, level of being a stranger to somewhere. And also as a person, I'm always interested in borders and boundaries. Because yes, Turkey and Kosovo is there is crossing border, but also there are some boundaries itself in the film. Gulizar and her private spaces, all these things. I think it's just one big visible decision, but behind that there are more boundaries. So this is the only physical contrast that everybody can feel that okay, we are in somewhere stranger. Because if it would take place in a city around her, I didn't think we would feel the same empathy for her, because we need to feel that she's vulnerable. She's normally, again, even it's in your same apartment, etc. Again, when people go over that type of post trauma, it's still you are strange to everywhere, I think. But for film, yeah, this is what cinema does perfectly. It becomes to help, it tries to, yeah, it contributes to make it more visible for all audiences to be a stranger.
Yeah, because it's a violation of her, as you say, it's a violation. Assault is a violation of her personal boundaries. It's a violation of her
Exactly.
body, and also a
Exactly.
betrayal of trust. Like, even though she
Exactly.
she didn't know the person, but it's like she trusted that she could be safe where she was, and like that was violated.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
think and I think another thing about the distance and the traveling and the metaphor of boundaries is that it's also, again, because she's getting married in another country, she's away from her parents, like this is another thing where she's away from her safety net, from everything and everyone that she knows. So like it's creating all of this emotional and physical distance, and it's like she doesn't have a support system apart from Emre, but again, he's a stranger. This is the first time they're meeting. It's an arranged
Definitely.
marriage, right? So it's, again,
Yep.
like the whole metaphor is, again, like how as we grow and as we change, like situations take us away from what we're familiar with and from what we're comfortable with.
Definitely. Yep.
And so I want to talk about, I mentioned at the beginning, parents. Talk to me about parents, because I got the feeling like, again, Gulizar was closer with her sister than with her parents, particularly her mom. And when she got to Turkey, she's, again, surrounded by strangers, but she has these parents around her, and she's like, she doesn't know what to expect. She doesn't know how much she can confide in him, especially Emre's mom. She's like, there's someone who's like my mom, but I can't confide in this person, even though she's an older woman. So talk to me about the parents, because there's parents on both sides of the borders, and they're basically the same.
Yeah, because there is an illusion for Gulizar that she's going somewhere again to a family who has the same nationality and culture, but she thinks, Kosovo will create a different version of the family. No, wherever we go, we carry our culture in a both positive and negative meaning. I'm saying that for parents, yeah, I wanted to keep really similar to each other, and also for the mothers like that. I imagine, because there are only two scenes you see her with mothers in the film, in the kitchen scene, but you can feel all the tension from there. So this was, I didn't want to make this film, Gulizar against her family or Emre's family, this type of societal films. But in the background, I wanted to share the, that illusion, which wherever you go, even in the same culture, it's usually same obstacles go around.
yeah, parents, older generations, they have their own ideas
Yep,
about
yep.
stuff. So my last question for you is about the matches. Gulizar seems to have a fascination with matches, and not with necessarily with fire, but with the action of like flicking the matches, of like igniting the matches. Can you talk to me about that?
Actually, during my childhood, it was a sort of play, dangerous play that we used to do through the windows or through the some outside places.
Mm,
We used to do this play and to see how fire goes away, goes like that. So it was for me what I remember from my childhood.
mm,
For the ending, yes, there is a, let's say, opening and closing thing. So when if you think the film as a book and try to keep it like that, you will see it's again, yeah, because the view how she deals with the fire in the
mhm.
beginning and in the closing, yeah, there is something there,
Yeah,
correlation there.
yeah, I was like, what is, I was like, she's not a pyromaniac, but she seems enamored with fire. But I thought it was interesting that the fire is basically how she's able to not move on, but she's able to like make a decision like I need to deal with what's happened to me. It's like
Yeah,
because
yeah,
because
yeah,
for in a lot of cultures, fire is a representation of a new start. Like you have to sometimes you gotta burn something for something new to grow from it, from out of the ashes, talking, like using the phoenix, raise it from the ashes. But it's like again, a forest, if a forest is burned down, it allows new growth to start again, right? So I kind of saw it as that, but I just thought the action of the fire playing with the matches itself was interesting to me.
yeah.
And so for you, again, this is your debut. You've done two short films previously, and this is your debut feature film. For you, like in making this film, how has making this film changed the way you look at your own storytelling and the way you use film to tell stories?
Yeah, debut film is another stage, big stage, both financially, psychologically, too much burden for a filmmaker to, because it's the first and big step, let's say. But yeah, after my latest short film, Cemile, I spent quite a lot time working on this film. So every film, I have some, imagination, some dreams to make it and work on it. So it was for me, yeah, I'm very happy to make this film in 5 years, because people sometimes can think that, and also told to me that, is it too much time you are spending? No need to make it, why
Mm,
editing that long? Why two countries? Yeah, there were always too much burden, but I was always, from the beginning, I was sure what I intend to. What I need was to have more artistic people who believes me, who are in the same page with me. So on that part, I was really, really lucky with my team. So it's nice, and for the next projects, I'm very, very excited to create another
mm.
perspective for the upcoming year.
Yeah, no, again, like, thank you so much for taking the time for speaking, and congratulations on the film. And I'm sure it's
Thank
going to
you.
spark much conversation. To me, it's a conversation starter for sure. But thank you so much, and congratulations to you
Thank,
and the entire cast and film team.
thank you. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.